Mark Smith. Mark's the owner of Smiths and Ellis Limited, butchers in Tamworth, and there he sits in all of his glory with that lovely apron as well. So how much more are you now paying as an employer?
It's going to cost us about £500 to £600 per employee for each of our workers. When you consider that, when we've got to put that on top of what we need to keep our employees in step with national minimum wage increases, we have to increase to keep them above that, and retail price increases, it's going to have an impact of around about £5,000 to £6,000 per employee per annum. It's a huge increase.
Absolutely, and you've got 12 people that work for you, yeah?
12 across, yeah. We've got 2 different shops.
Yeah, sure. Do you know how much extra they're having to pay? And I'm intrigued to know, because I was briefed how you run your business and how close you are to it. You're not just the boss up there, but it's very much a personal thing as well and a family thing. Have they come to you and said, look, this is getting really tricky?
It's going to cost them. It's going to cost them a similar amount, £500 or £600 a year. That comes off what they're already earning, and when you compare that to what everything is costing them on a day-to-day basis, their fuel to get to work, their energy bills at home, everything that they buy, it really is the perfect storm, both for employees and employers.
And what are you hearing across the counter from the folk? Because you mentioned it in your first answer that clearly it will have an impact, because all of us are consumers first and foremost, unless we're buying pork chops or cider beef or whatever it might be, you don't have a business. And are people saying across the counter, look, this is going to be tricky, or are you getting fewer customers already?
We are starting to see impacts of that already. Naturally, as people have less available income to spend, they will look to take whatever shortcuts they can to maintain a standard of living that they've become accustomed to. And that may mean that they will buy less expensive items, or in many cases they will go for far cheaper alternatives like the discount superstores, who, whilst the quality is not the same, the bottom line is it may cost them less pounds per week to eat their home, get to work and back. So these are the options that they will take.
It's extraordinary. It's such a brilliant snapshot of real life. And my final question to you, Mark, is this, and it's genuinely not a trick question. I want to know what comes from the heart and the brain. We had the Prime Minister on GB News this morning, and on that very point which Esther and Philip put to him about the cost of living crisis, he said, look, we can't just borrow money because somebody's got to pay it back one day and pay the interest on it. And secondly, we've got to get the NHS back in order and cut those waiting lists. So if he picked up the phone and said to you, Mark, I'll tell you why I'm doing it, and I'm sorry about the pain, do you buy that? Do you accept it? Or do you think that there must be a better way of doing it?
It's not a simple answer. Yes, I accept what we need to do. That there is no doubt that certain things need to be addressed. However, the reality of the way this is hitting certainly small retail businesses at the moment is that when we consider that the cost per employee is likely to be £5,000 or £6,000 per employee, and the cost of supply of our energy, our raw materials and doing business, it's probably going to put a lot of small retailers out of business. And when we consider that there are 5 or 6 million people employed by small retail businesses, that's going to have a significant, bigger effect on the economy of the country, because all of those people will need to work, and if there is no available shop for them to work in, then it's another burden on our tax costs. So I understand what he's saying. He's absolutely right.
Yeah.
How do we fund that and pay for it? I really don't know.
And how's he going to feel when he starts reading about all those small businesses like yours, God forbid it's yours, but other businesses that fold or decide that they can't take on that 13th, 14th, 15th employee? Mark Smith, real pleasure talking to you, and thank you very much for your time this Saturday afternoon. Best wishes to you and everybody else involved with Smiths and Ellis Limited Butchers there up in Tamworth. What a brilliant conversation with a